Hello everybody, I'm Chad Booth. Welcome to the County Seat, the show that's about local government, not local politics. Last week we talked about snow removal as one of the specific services of Public Works. Today we're going to revisit Public Works. Now, Salt Lake County is in the process of changing their Public Works department. In Utah's most populous county, they are doing some bold and dynamic restructuring of the department. We will discuss that later in our roundtable. But first, we thought we would bring you up to speed on Public Works in general. What exactly is Public Works? What kinds of services fall under that category? Let's get the details.
You ever wondered what you would do if there was no garbage pickup? How about if there was no running water in your home or no roads on which to travel? These are services we often don't think much about. We pay our taxes and the services just happen. If there's ever been a service you've taken for granted, it's likely part of the Public Works. The infrastructure programs that we don't pay too much attention to, but affect our lives on a daily basis.
We've got to have water, we've got to have ability to get around, we've got to have certain essential services for the public to be able to get by and for us to live the kind of life that we've gotten used to living. And so essentially that's what Public Works is about. And we try to do that as effectively and economically as we can.
Roads, garbage collection, fire departments, ambulance services, flood control, the list goes on and on. Some of the lesser-known services include electricity, internet, weed and mosquito abatement. The type of services and their scope differs from county to county, but the goal of Public Works is the same: maintain the infrastructure that is part of our modern-day lives.
There are areas within the county that are not inside of incorporated city limits. And so there needs to be a jurisdiction and a legal entity that has some responsibility for the public and to see that certain needs are met for various things that need to be done for planning, other things such as that. Things that a city government might do, but in those cases where the city jurisdiction or boundary doesn't go that far, then that's where the county comes in.
Services are handled best by the government entities closest to the citizens they serve. Counties understand the needs of their population and have sufficient resources to meet those needs. But counties are not alone in providing services.
Do we coordinate with the cities? You bet. And a lot of times the cities have a very fundamental part to play in what we do. If nothing else that I think the county, at least Public Works, can do is be a facilitator and a coordinator between the various cities and the various entities and property owners to make sure that what we're doing in one section is consistent with what maybe another city or section would need.
The challenge is identifying the services that the public needs and then providing those services on an ongoing basis and looking forward to the services that will be needed tomorrow.
As we get more and more people in the area and our population grows and our expectations sometimes grow with that. So there's a balancing act of what we expect versus what we can afford to do. But it's a fun thing to do, and it's very interesting and it's very satisfying to be able to see things get done, drainages get improved, roads get improved, and to see traffic and growth occurring and doing it fairly smoothly. That's our goal, to try to make it happen smoothly.
Those developments have become an integral part of our society, improving our quality of life and creating a sense of community pride. For the county seat, I'm Terry Wood.
Well, now you have the background of the general concept of Public Works. Now we're going to shift our attention to Salt Lake County and some changes that are going on that will have quite an impact on how county services are delivered and managed. We'll be back with that on the county seat in just a minute.
Almost 45% of the oil produced in Utah, 7.8 million barrels, comes from Duchesne County. That oil feeds our state economy, provides job growth, and supports local business. Here in Duchesne County, we're working to make Utah an economic, cultural, and technological leader. Whether you're here for business or pleasure, Duchesne County will welcome you with open arms and invite you to explore all the beauty of the Uinta Mountains. Duchesne County, close enough for business, far enough to get away.
What do you picture when you hear Rich County, Utah? Bear Lake adventure, snowmobile action, pristine skiing, spectacular solitude. Well, if that isn't what first came to mind, then you just don't know Rich County. The Bear Lake Monster Polar Plunge, snowmobiling Monte Cristo, ice fishing Bear Lake, skiing the backcountry, fishing at the Cisco Disco. Come and find out what you never knew you were missing. Rich County, Utah.
Industry is the symbol of Utah. Beauty is what makes it unique. Nowhere else are these two qualities exemplified, like in Uinta County. Oil and gas extraction, pioneer history, the spirit of hard work and integrity that feed our state. Built in the middle of the most spectacular backdrop in the West. Isn't it time you found the balance you've been looking for? Uinta County, Utah, where industry meets inspiration.
How would you spend an extra day in Utah Valley? Stay one more day. Visit utahvalley.com to make reservations. Utah Valley. Bring everyone together.
Welcome back to the county seat. Today we are talking about the public works section of county government. Now, in particular, Salt Lake County, the most populous county in the state of Utah, is going through some changes on how they address public works. And that is the topic of our conversation today. Introduce our guests here. We have Russ Wall, who is the new Director of Public Works and Regional Development, who's the former mayor of Taylorsville. Welcome to County Service.
Thank you, Chad. Happy to be here.
And we also have Patrick Leary, who has previously served in the Public Works capacity and is now moving on to the new position of Township Executive.
Correct.
The county has taken one department and they have divided it into two different emphases with your two new posts. One would normally think that if you're trying to be more efficient, as the mayor has indicated he wanted to be, that you would consolidate. Tell me how this is going to work.
Well, the county government's unique because Mayor McAdams wears two hats. Mm-hmm. He serves as the mayor for the entire population of the valley, 1.1 million people, and has a perspective that's regional in nature. But he's also the city mayor for the unincorporated community, 150,000 strong. And those two roles sometimes come in conflict. And so what he had the foresight to do was to carve those pieces apart and begin moving county government into actually acting as a city government on the one hand, and then in the area where Russ will be leading out, looking at that regional perspective and the things we can do together.
All right, from a regional perspective, Russ, what is going to change? Where's the focus going to go with this?
Well, the focus will be, my focus is going to be to first solidify and expand some of the partnerships we have with some of the municipalities and the unincorporated portion of the county with public works services. And then one of the other things I'll be looking at is to look at the concept of possibly having a separate entity, a unified public works department, for lack of better words. So like it would, unified fire, unified police concept.
All right. What are you going to do as the township executive?
Well, I will be advocating on behalf of that unincorporated community. My job will be analogous to a city manager position, and I'll be looking to Russ and what he's doing as a customer, as opposed to simply wearing the hat of both the boss and a customer.
Okay. So, having been very close to the incorporation of Cottonwood Heights, I know that the city, i.e. the township executive, and the county public works sometimes got a little bit like this. Have you guys got boxing gloves?
So far, it's actually been very amiable. Patrick is teaching me the ropes, and I'm bringing a perspective because I was one of the partner cities. So I've been involved in some of that, and part of my role will be try to bring different policies and different ways of doing things to avoid some of that. We work more like partners.
Somehow, in the back of my head, I see a squabble between siblings and the mayor having to sit you down and say, okay, go sit in your corners for a timeout.
I think that might happen at some point in time, but that might be a good thing. In my old capacity, where I wore two hats much as the mayor, it was a bit schizophrenic when I had to have those squabbles, so now we can have someone to talk to about it. So,
define for me, Russ, the scope of public works for Salt Lake County, because as we had a similar program recently on the county seat, we realized that Public Works changes from county to county. What's the scope of Salt Lake County's?
In Salt Lake County, Public Works is snowplow, road maintenance. We have animal services as part of the Public Works. We have addressing as part of Public Works, where we're trying to coordinate all the addresses that have been messed up over the years. We also have planning and engineering, flood control, and landfill.
What do you want to change in the townships over the status quo right now?
One of the things that I think I'd like to work on is actually giving a stronger voice to the unincorporated community, advocating for their services. And we have a very rich and structured community council system that we've been working to strengthen under Mayor Kroon's administration. And I think we're poised to take that to the next level and look to those people who live in these communities for the services they want and the quality of services, and then letting Russ know what I need, and he'll help me out in getting it for him.
You know, some people will look at Salt Lake County and they're not going to be able to identify where the townships or the unincorporated parts are. I mean, obviously there are a couple little parcels that sit between Sandy and Cottonwood Heights and a couple little pockets, but what is not incorporated in the county?
So there are 4 townships, Mill Creek, Magna, Kearns, and Copperton, and we also have a number of islands, like you said, that are still unincorporated areas or pockets out there. Mm-hmm. If you look at that from a population standpoint of 150,000, we would be the second largest city in the state of Utah. If you look at it from a geographic point of view, there's almost 450,000 square miles of area peppered throughout the larger county boundaries. So it's a very large piece of territory for us to manage and provide municipal services for.
Oh, that sounds very good. In those small pocketed areas that don't have community councils, what's the structure going to be that represents them to the county?
Well, let me correct you there. They do have community councils. They're not simply formed as a township, which is a little bit of an elevated step that protects its borders from annexation or incorporation. Mm-hmm. So they do have a voice, though, through that community council, and we work with them very closely.
Okay. Is there a place where people can find out where that information is?
Sure. You can actually go on the county website, and we have a site on that talks about the unincorporated area specifically, and that website is www.slco.org.
I'd like to address, Russ, for you a little bit about contracting for services with the municipalities. Is the county looking at trying to expand that role?
Well, what we want to do is we want to expand it without being overbearing. A lot of people have suspicions that the county's looking to take over and make these countywide services, but really that's not the point at all. The point is there's areas where we can partner with some municipalities, save them money, save us money. We'll look at those things, and then it'll ultimately be their decision. And you know, if areas where there's not or there's no interest, we're going to respect municipalities' ability to be sovereign and make their own decisions.
Which one's going to be the easiest to tackle for you? Or maybe you need to ask him.
Oh, I know the easiest one. It's probably streetlights, because we already do those. Every municipality in the county partners with the county on some service, yeah. Whether it's streetlights or traffic signals or animal services or public works. I'm not going to be going with the easiest first. I'm going to be going with the most difficult first, and that is operations, which is snowplow and road maintenance. And so I'm going right for the jugular to try and either kill the beast or heal the beast, one of the two.
We'll be right back after this commercial break.
Bring your family and friends and come celebrate the retreat of winter with thousands of snow geese as they stop in Delta, Utah on their migration north. Pick your adventure in Millard County.
The State of Utah School and Institutional Trust Lands Administration. SITLA manages 3.5 million acres in Utah lands with the express purpose of furthering the education of Utah students while promoting local industry, oil and gas, even residential development, all at the same time. Through the careful use of trust lands, we distributed more than $22 million to Utah schools last year. The State of Utah School and Institutional Trust Lands Administration, building the state's permanent school fund.
I didn't order this. Compliments of the lady in gold. Hello, trouble. anything worth doing in this quiet little town?
You look like the kind of man that could show a girl a good time.
You strike me as the kind of girl that likes a manicure and a massage.
How's that for a manicure?
I hate golf.
I was hoping for something a little more vigorous.
Vigorous, I can do.
And I thought you'd be riding side saddle.
What? I'm gonna regret this. How about that manicure?
Welcome back to the county seat. We've been talking about changes coming to the Public Works Department of Salt Lake County with 2 new divisions. I want to pick up kind of where we left off. We had mentioned townships, community councils, municipalities. Would you guys explain that so that people at home understand what is a township, how is it different from a city, and how is that different from a community council?
Well, we can try. Essentially, the 3 different levels are that the most tight level is the municipality that has gone through a process of incorporating with the citizens choosing a form of government. Of course, Mayor Wall knows all about this since he was the former mayor of Taylorsville, choosing to do that. And they go through a very rigorous process to become a city. The next level back is something that we call the township, and that was passed a number of years ago for an unincorporated community, the area of the county that has not chosen to become a city, but may not want to become a city, to protect their boundaries from incorporation efforts or annexation efforts by other municipalities. And they go through a similar process, not quite as rigorous as the going to become a city government. But essentially, if they can get the votes and the people choose to become a township, it does protect a geographic area from sort of being picked off by cities. And finally, in both municipal government and in county government, we have what we call community councils, and those are geographic areas of interest that have been formed and recognized by either the city government or by the county government to give a voice to those people. And in those cases, those are staffed, or not staffed, but they're volunteer members of the community who serve because they want to better their community, and they're not paid positions, but they give a voice to that local neighborhood.
Are these elected positions in all 3?
In the community councils, they do have, at least with the county, they do have an election process for their officers. At the township level, I believe they do have elected positions as well.
And in cities, I've seen it both ways. Some are just volunteers or appointed, and then there are some that will have their own election in an area. When they form their community council area, those decisions are made by the city ordinance.
One of the issues that I've heard much debate about and lots of complaints about over the last few years is as cities, particularly at the point where cities actually incorporate, is they see on their property tax bill a municipal services fund that's going to the county, and they're saying, I'm being double taxed. How do you guys divide the financial side of this with this department? Because a lot of people really complain about it, and I don't think their complaints are actually accurate.
Sure. This is a great question, and one that was actually litigated way back a long time ago between Salt Lake City and Salt Lake County on the very reason of double taxation. City residents saying, hey, I'm paying my city, and I'm also paying this bill for the county for the same service. That doesn't seem right. The county lost that litigation, and as a result, we actually were forced, in a good way, to segregate monies that come simply from the unincorporated county, the property and sales tax that come from those unincorporated residents, and other taxes that may come from a general pot. We have to keep a separate fund. They aren't mixed. They're not mixed at all. And the services we provide as a municipality have to be paid for out of that fund.
Okay, and then what kind of expenditures would the general fund cover?
Regional expenses, aging services, parks, regional parks. The financial end of this has been taken care of for a long time. the issue out there is there's still a perception, and that was part of the reason that we've made this change, so that there's a clear delineation in authority and leadership too, so that the other cities understand that Patrick will become the executive for the unincorporated area, and his negotiation on regional and contracts and partnerships would be the same as theirs.
Okay, well, that makes a lot of sense. Very quickly, a challenge. What's going to be the biggest thing? You just got about a minute to answer this.
Probably dividing up the public works into what is truly a regional and what's truly a township and or unincorporated area department.
I would imagine that could be very difficult. Well, stay with us. We'll be back with more of the county seat. We have a couple more topics to cover on this conversation. Hope you'll stay with us. We'll be back right after this break.
Let's be honest, you don't know much about Beaver County. Well, let me tell you about it. It's the birthplace of outlaw Butch Cassidy and inventor Philo T. Farnsworth. Some of the best skiing in Utah is at Eagle Point. You've got camping, Canyon Breeze Golf Course, Crusher and the Tushers, Beaver Territorial Courthouse, snowmobiling, Renewable Energy, Pioneer Car Show, Squeaky Cheese, Ghost Towns to explore, best water in the country, Paiute ATV trails, Old Frisco Kilns, horse racing, hunting, fishing, and it's a good place to live. Beaver County, mountains of fun. I could tell you more, but why don't you come and see it for yourself?
There aren't a lot of places in this world where you can feel truly free and wild, where the horizon invites you to set off on adventure. In Tooele County, you'll find just that. Explore the Benson Grist Mill and step back in time. Find yourself on a trek through our canyons. Tooele County. Experience endless horizons.
Check out these pictures from my vacation.
Where did you go again?
Garfield County, you know, like Bryce Canyon, Devil's Rock Garden,
Where's that?
Capitol Reef, Kodachrome Basin, Highway 12.
Wait a minute, I wanted to see more. A picture may be worth 1,000 words, but there's nothing like experiencing the real thing firsthand. Gather your family and see the world's largest concentration of scenic attractions. Garfield County, Utah. Find the ultimate adventure.
Cedar City, Utah is home of the Tony Award-winning Utah Shakespeare Festival. But did you know that we also offer a different kind of play?
Escape the gray. Head south for clear skies. Cedar City, Bryan Head. It's where play is the thing.
Welcome back to the county seat. We've been talking about the new order of Salt Lake County and their Public Works Department, the fact that it's been divided up. We're continuing our conversation. What are the gray areas? I mean, we've had one big pot of public works that has represented the unincorporated areas, the townships, and done the broad regional work that you're now doing. The gray areas, where are the biggest, you know, what are you guys going to be fist fighting over?
Well,
it's already started.
I think I think the first thing that I came in and I thought, well, planning and zoning is easy. That's Patrick's, because that seems to be a municipal service. But then we start talking about, well, there's engineers in planning and zoning that also do regional engineering for flood control, and they also do regional planning, countywide planning. And so there's certainly going to be gray areas there, even in areas that we think are, you know, just cut and dry, totally regional, totally municipal. We're going to find that there's a lot of crossover. So there's a lot of gray areas.
And I think the notion, and maybe a better way for us to think about it, is that even though we're carving these two pieces together, we do operate in a valley with 16 different cities and multiple communities. We, as a county, are the 17th city, and so everything is going to be gray because we can't operate in isolation. We have to operate in a collaborative fashion.
Well, that would lead us to the next topic, is the delivery of services, particularly in the unincorporated areas. I've always wondered, in fact, it came up in our last program on public works, that, you know, when the snowplow hits a city limit from the county, they don't lift the blade and drive 2 blocks till they're back in the county. They just plow on through. But I would imagine that applies to all kinds of things like storm sewers and of course water is a different animal. But you know, is that going to require a different kind of contracting, or? I mean, what are the challenges of those kind of services?
Well, I think you're right. I think there's the old notion that the snowplow picks up the blade at the city limit or the county limit and then puts it down a block later. Our drivers, I think, are a little bit smarter than that, and city drivers are a little bit smarter as well. But there are a lot of areas where we do need to work more closely together, and I think this recent spate of storms and the challenge for the state crews who deliver snow plowing on state roads throughout the county, city crews and county crews all have different mandate, and you can tell just driving through the valley, you know, sometimes which road you're on based on the priority of which jurisdiction is plowing that road. And so it's going to take a lot of working with these different jurisdictions at all levels of government to coordinate to become as efficient and effective in delivering public service to these folks.
When you're looking at countywide services, and you've got, I mean, you ran a flag off in my head a few minutes ago when you had mentioned in a break Immigration Canyon. And I got thinking, yeah, you know what, that is part of the county. And so is Big Cottonwood, so is Little Cottonwood Canyon. How difficult is it going to be, or how difficult is it to adjust the delivery of services based on where in the county it is?
You have some streets that are flat and some streets that are very vertical. And the flat ones seem to go straight and the vertical ones seem to twist. As a mayor coming from a flat city with perpendicular Brigham Young streets to Patrick introduced me to some streets I've never been in the county before. It's mind-boggling the quality of work and the diverse nature of the work that our public work employees do.
The scope has to be part of it too, doesn't it?
Oh, sure, there's no question. And that's what's, I think, tremendously exciting about the work the Public Works Department for Salt Lake County does, is the scope is huge. But you ask a good question. What about those citizens at the top of the canyon who are paying taxes for those municipal services versus the ones right down in the heart of Kearns or in the middle of the valley? And we have the same obligation to both, and sometimes it does make it a challenge. But we have to be out there talking to our citizens about what they expect, and they're pretty good about responding to us and letting us know when we're doing things well and letting us really know when we're not. So,
all right. Well, you'll both be available for comments from curious viewers that may want to call in.
Absolutely.
Oh, sure.
All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you for joining and helping us clear this up. It sounds like an exciting time ahead. We want to thank you for joining us on the County Seat each week. Remember, this is the program that is about local government, not local politics, and we appreciate your support of the program. It's important because this is the level of government that affects you the most. You can always check out and rewatch this program on our website, thecountyseat.tv. You'll like us on Facebook. You can talk back to us. We'll look for you next week on the County Seat. Thanks for joining us.